I'd like to introduce our presenters. We've got myself, Brian, the co-founder and chief architect of Feedonomics, and we've also got Christy Hayner, who is the strategic development partner manager over at Google. And I'll let Christy give a little bit more of a bio about herself in just a moment. But you guys have probably heard a fair amount about what Google does and every single service they offer. But I want to give you guys a little bit of a background about Feedonomics. So Feedonomics is a full-service product feed platform. We help over 25% of the top 1,000 retailers optimize their product feeds for hundreds of channels, of course, including Google Shopping Actions and Google Shopping itself. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christy, who will tell you a little bit more about herself and start talking about Google Shopping Actions.
Great, thank you for that introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm Christy, and I'm in our business development team here at Google, working with retailers and across the retail ecosystem to develop new products and services. For a bit of context, I've been at Google for over 12 years now, having worked with lots of different businesses across both our sales and different product orgs, and also both in the US and internationally. I'd like to pause and say thank you to Feedonomics for the invitation to present along with them, and also to each of you for joining us for this webinar. At Google, we're deeply committed to working with you and across the whole retail ecosystem with the goal to help you and your businesses thrive, and to do that by providing great customer experiences. So you may already be familiar with many of the products and services that Google offers in this space, like product listing ads or local inventory ads, for example. But today we're excited to deep dive with you on a new opportunity that's called Shopping Actions on Google. So we'll talk about a few things. First is, we always want to begin with the user and understand what's going on with the user. So we'll talk about a few trends that we're seeing in the shopping space specifically. Then we'll go into what is Shopping Actions on Google and how can you take advantage of it. So first, let's begin with the user. We'll talk about 3 trends that we're seeing. As you guys are well aware, consumers are engaging with digital more and more, and this pace is only accelerating. And we're seeing this firsthand, particularly in how search queries have changed over time. Trying to change the slide here. There we go. For example, previously we used to see that a lot of our queries in the shopping space were actually high consideration products. So doing research for a television or for a digital camera. But this has changed dramatically over time. And users are turning to Google for all kinds of things, from very high consideration products to very simple, low consideration transactional products as well. Here you can see just a few examples of some of these kinds of queries which have increased. For example, best travel pillow, we've seen a 3-fold increase in the number of queries. So what this tells us is that users are getting more curious. They're turning to digital more and more often for more and more different reasons, and Google is a critical point in that journey as an opportunity for you to have touch points with them at each stage. The second trend is that we're seeing through queries as well that users are getting very impatient. Searches for same-day shipping have doubled. We're also seeing a 3-fold increase in searches such as open now. So not only are people expecting to find the information that they need quickly, but also to actually get those products very fast and to engage with retailers in brand new ways. Well, there's 3 things that we can help you with. One is we can help you reach these users wherever they are. We can help you convert this interest into sales. And 3, we can help you expand to these new platforms and keep up with the times as they are rapidly evolving. So let's start with a reflection on our own experiences. This isn't quite the most interactive format, but it'd be great if each of you could just think for a moment. When was the last time you were on one of Google's properties, whether that's Gmail or YouTube or Maps? My hunch is that was probably pretty recently. So a huge asset that Google has is our reach. We have many products that have billions of users engaging, and not just engaging once a month, but actually on a daily basis. So this is a huge opportunity to connect you with your users during their shopping journey. But what if we could turn each of those interactions into an actual sales opportunity where we can show your products in the context where they are across all of Google and give them the opportunity to not just learn about your product, but convert in that moment. And this is what Shopping Actions is. It's a fast and easy way for your customers to shop your products with a single cart across Google platforms from any device. So, restated it another way, it's not necessarily a user going to a specific destination when they have intent to buy something. But now we can find them wherever they are across Google, understand their context, and surface the right products for them in the right context at the right time and give them that opportunity to convert, ultimately driving more sales for you. The vision is for this to be across anywhere on Google. Where we're starting today is with 3 different areas where your products can be surfaced. The first is Google Express. So some of you may already be familiar with this product. It's one place where a user can go and they can shop, a bit more of a destination. The second is Google Search. So now we're bringing product opportunities into search, not just in the format for ads, but an actual opportunity to be able to convert. These will sit alongside ad opportunities as well. And the third place where products can appear today is the Google Assistant. So 3 places across Google where products can appear with shopping actions on Google. But this is merely the starting point. The vision for us is really to evolve into a shopping assistant where anywhere you may be across Google in that right moment where it makes sense, those products could appear and it could be an opportunity to buy. So why join Shopping Actions? It's a great way to acquire new customers. So it's not just about repeat customers or just reach, but actually we've seen that Shopping Actions helps retailers acquire customers for the very first time. Second, we can help you increase your sales by going to the user where they are. And third, innovation is tough. It takes a lot of resources. It's hard to understand where to invest. But through one setup with Google, you're ready to go for whatever comes next. We have 3 platforms that can expose your products today, but as that expands, that same original setup that you have with your feeds is extensible to where shopping actions may appear in the future. And underpinning all of this is a very simple way to implement. For those of you who are already familiar with Merchant Center, it's the same platform where you would use Merchant Center, and you'll hear more from Feedonomics on how to do this, to expose your products through shopping actions. And it's also competitive pricing. So it's a commission model for shopping actions, which is maybe very familiar to other marketplaces that you're used to. But what's different about shopping actions? The way we've designed shopping actions is really to be a retailer first platform. And this is seen through many of the product features that are available, such as having prominent merchant branding and being able to collect email opt-ins so you could communicate after. We've also been deeply committed to developing loyalty and personalization in a very seamless way to make it very easy for reordering or basket building. We also try to make it as easy as possible on you when it comes to customer support and returns, where Google does the heavy lifting. Our commission model makes it so that you're paying for only sales that you're getting. And with everything, we try to provide as much data as possible to help you understand your performance, your competitiveness, and use data to derive insights to help you perform even better. So to summarize, Shopping Actions is one opportunity where you can reach users, increase your conversion, and make your exposure across Google extensible automatically by participating in Shopping Actions. And this is something that can sit alongside your strategy with other shopping-related products as well. So we see it as something that is very complementary to what you may already be doing with your ads exposure if you are participating. It's another tool in your arsenal. We also, it's very close to the holiday season, so we think the timing is quite nice, and we're happy to have you all here because this is a great seasonal time to maximize all the interest on Google. We see a huge spike in queries across the board, and by opting into as many opportunities and products as possible, you increase your chance of being there for your users when it matters. So I'd like to pass back to Feedonomics to speak more about how you can actually get on board with Shopping Actions.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Christy. And I hope you guys enjoyed learning about some of the awesome benefits that Google Shopping Actions is offering. Truly, it all boils down to performance, which was that previous slide you guys saw with Ulta Beauty and Target, obviously seeing increased performance. And we've been seeing the same things. We've now been getting a few dozen clients on Google Shopping Actions and been seeing quite a few performance benefits like increased revenue, lower costs, and definitely something that is going to be very important in the holiday season. So the question is, now that you guys have seen the benefits, how do you actually get live onto Google Shopping Actions? And how can Feedonomics help that? So the first thing that we can help with is optimizing your product data. So Feedonomics has the ability to pull product data, product feeds from literally any e-commerce platform that's out there, from Salesforce Commerce Cloud to Magento to WooCommerce, Shopify, BigCommerce, all the big ones. And even when it's a custom platform, we can actually crawl data and create a dynamic feed just from your website itself. So that's the first step. First, you need to get your products optimized and sent over to Google Merchant Center so that you're even eligible to be on it in the first place. But then the question is, how do you handle order fulfillment? And this is what we've built out and really mastered. So the order fulfillment component is, how do you pull orders from Google Shopping Actions and then insert it back into your store as if it was an order from your website or even an order from Amazon or literally any other marketplace channel. So once you're able to fulfill that order, we can pull tracking numbers directly from your e-commerce platform and send it back to Google Shopping Actions through Google Merchant Center APIs that we built out. And the amazing part of this is that it's actually completely automated, and it's key to performing well. So high level, those three steps again are just listing products, pulling orders and inserting it into your e-commerce platform, and sending tracking numbers back. And we've completed this process now for a couple of the major e-commerce platforms like Magento, WooCommerce, Shopify, BigCommerce, as well as if you're using a custom website, we can actually accomplish this as well over an FTP adapter. So that's kind of what we do. There are a few components that are really critical to performing well on Google Shopping Actions. So as you probably can imagine, there is a health grid that you have called retailer ratings and standards that you can actually find your performance of inside of Google Merchant Center. So you're evaluated at a high level on defects, gross sales, and total orders. And then you're classified into three different categories, which is top retailers, meeting standards, or below standards. And as you can see in the right-hand chart, if you have a low defect rate, a low shipping defect rate, and high sales, you're going to fall into the top retail category. And why is that important? Obviously, beyond just being happy that you're a top retailer, you also get benefits like discounts on commission, as well as more visibility in searches. And this kind of goes into the whole thing about how it's merchants first. Obviously, you get far more data from sales than you would if you sold something on Amazon, for example, because if a user opts in, you can actually get their email address. So this is just another way that Google is putting merchants first with these retailer ratings, really emphasizing how well and how quickly you're able to fulfill orders. And of course, as you saw on the previous slide, we help automate that process and minimize the lag times of how quickly an order is placed to how quickly we can insert it into your e-commerce platform and then send that tracking number back to Google. The other place where we can help tremendously is for Google Merchant Center error alerts. Now, Christy's going to have to cover her ears as I say this is a problem that has been plaguing us ever since Google Merchant Center has existed. But errors and warnings are a big component of things that can go wrong after you're already live. So instead of checking, these manually multiple times a day, we've built the automated capabilities of pulling errors and sending you alerts based on any kind of error threshold, either on an overall level or on an individual error level that you want. So this is a really nice process because Black Friday, Cyber Monday are coming up. And what we've seen is that roughly about a quarter of all your annual ad spend happens during 4 days, which is kind of insane when you think about it, because those 4 days are really just 1% of the year, but you're spending 25% of your budget potentially on those 4 days. So every error and every disapproval you have has a 25x multiplier of how badly it affects your account. So it's incredibly important to resolve these as quickly as possible and minimize however many errors and disapprovals you might have, especially if they're on best-selling products. So this, of course, is something we do for Google Shopping, and naturally this we've extended to Google Shopping Actions as well. So you can have custom alerts based on any kind of error threshold so that you're immediately notified. And if it's something that can be fixed in the feed itself, our team is also notified. And we do have 24/7 support, which is able to resolve these problems for our clients. Last year, around Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we dealt with around 50 during those 4 days, critical support requests that we were able to fix in time for Black Friday and Cyber Monday during that holiday weekend. So it's a very, very important component that it's not just a set it and forget it approach. You really need to be able to monitor and make sure that you have as few errors as possible affecting your account. So how do you actually get live on Google Shopping Actions? First, as you probably imagined, you'll need to have a Google Merchant Center account already set up. If you don't, you can of course follow this link to set it up, and we'll be sending out some instructions afterwards as well. So don't worry if you can't click on that link right now. Next, you'll want to submit an interest form that we've created specifically for participation that will guide you through some of the other steps that you'll need. And you'll also want to set up your product and business information. FeedAmp, which is that order integration process, is something that you'd want to do next. You of course have to agree to terms and service with Google, and you'll also want to review and test your storefront before going live just to make sure it all looks good and the full process works. And lastly, you'll want to actually publish and go live. If you want more detailed information about all of these steps, we actually have a nice list here. But going into a little bit more detail about some of the business information you'll need, you'll first need a Google account, of course, as you probably guessed. You'll also need to provide business info, such as contact information, address information for different locations, shipping policies and info, tax information, as well as payments and billing info, a return policy, a return address, as well as a circular logo. So this image on the right actually has quite a few image assets that you can provide to Google, but as of now, the only one that's required is that circular merchant logo on the right. The other ones are nice to haves, and we definitely recommend them because they, of course, give your storefront a more prominent feel, and a more premium feel that fits more in line with your business. So we definitely recommend those additional image assets as well. And because we've now done a few dozen of these, we definitely have some good tips for you to get this process moving faster. So one of the biggest advices that we have as we're getting this set up is to tackle multiple steps in parallel. Some of them require validation from Google. Some of them might be a little bit more automated, but you should definitely try to submit these in parallel so you don't have to wait for one to be approved and then move on to the next one. The other one that is kind of obvious, but for whatever reason, we've seen sometimes retailers are submitting this very, very late in the game. This can be a major stumbling block that holds you back. So you definitely want to ensure that you accept those terms of service as early as possible so you can parallelize the rest of the steps. The other one, and this is actually a problem not just for Google Shopping Actions, but for Google Shopping in general, is entering and ensuring that your shipping and tax info is correct. If it's not correct, one, you can get disapprovals and errors as you go on, but more importantly, you want to make sure that what users see on, inside of their search experience matches exactly what is correct. So this is a really key one to get right, because the last thing you want to do is have someone click on a Google Shopping Actions ad and the tax info or shipping info is going to be different from what they see on the landing page. So definitely something you want to make sure is correct. The other one, and this is really critical, is make sure you read over the policies, and we'll be sending these out after this webinar to make sure that you comply. Some examples are ensuring that you can actually do 30-day returns and that you don't have restocking fees for products that you have live. Don't worry if not all products meet these criteria, because you might have a product that weighs 200 pounds and there's no way that you're going to be offering 30-day or no restocking fees for that product. If that's the case, you can actually exclude certain products from your actual feed, and this is something we do quite regularly, so we can definitely help with that piece as well, which is just excluding certain products from your feed that may not meet the Google Shopping Actions policies, or you don't necessarily want to try. You don't necessarily have to put every single product you have into the Google Shopping Actions bucket. You can actually leave some just on Google Shopping and some on Google Shopping Actions, or some on both. So that's also an option. And lastly, we have a really great link to a Help Center document that has a ton more useful info about how to accelerate this process, as well as just learn more. So if you guys haven't asked any questions yet throughout the presentation, feel free to type some into the chat box and we will be answering them now. So let us just pull this up. Great. First off, are you going to share the webinar after this? We do need approval from Google's legal team, but hopefully we'll be able to share it and send it. If not, we'll still be sending over some great resources about getting started. You just won't have the full recorded webinar. Okay, so let's go to the next question. So one, is there a commission rate that I can see? This is from Janice. And also, one of the major downfalls of markets such as Amazon and eBay is the inclusion of a tremendous number of Chinese retailers. Is this envisioned for Google Shopping Actions' future? So Christy, I'll let you handle that one.
Sure, thanks for that question. The first is on commission rates. Commission rates vary by product category, and you can see them when they'll be available for you to see the full list across all those different product categories once you're in Merchant Center. And on the second question, which is, I'll broaden to, is it international? So right now, Shopping Actions is available only for businesses that aren't necessarily located in the US, but have a US bank account and US operations. So it is very US oriented. For any businesses that are international, they must have those two components for now to be able to participate.
Thanks, Christy. Just if I can add some color to it, what I've seen just in terms of commission rates is that across the board, they're typically lower than what Amazon or eBay would have across the different categories. And as you saw, there is also a discount if you get live by the end of this year, an additional discount beyond that. The question about Chinese retailers on Amazon and eBay is actually really interesting. It's something that I've seen as a shopper numerous times where you see, fake reviews, where you might see things spelled, very, very incorrectly, poor grammar. My gut feel is that's not the current reality of Google Shopping and Google Shopping actions. I can, of course, speak to the future, but because this is really going off of probably more medium to large retailers who are going to be utilizing it, and because it's US only, it seems like there is a distinct effort to sort of really focus on higher quality than what you might typically find on Amazon and eBay. So that's just my anecdotal feel of what I'm seeing. Hopefully that gives you a sense as well. But great question. So here's another one. Is it possible, and this is from IO, is it possible to customize what options a customer might see on the product pages of Google Express? So maybe I'll take a first stab and I'll let Christy add some more color around that. So there is quite a bit of customization you can add. The branding assets in particular, I'll just go show a result here. There are quite a few things that you can add that sort of add more of your kind of flavor to the site, and that's mostly in terms of branding assets. Anything to add, Christy?
I think that's a great example. Is really branding is a huge area of opportunity to get your brand front and center. I think it'd be good to hear a bit more about what's behind that question and what specifically, what features would like to be customized. I don't know if it's possible to do follow-up questions here. If not, we can potentially discuss offline as well.
Yeah, if you want, just type in another question and we'll a little more color around your question. We'll see if we can answer it. Otherwise, we'll definitely follow up with you afterwards. Okay, so here is another question. Who pays for the return shipping? Example, heavy items and a customer changes their minds. And this is from Janice. Christy, do you want to take a step?
Sure. So for returns, we require that the user does not have to pay for returns. There are specifics about the policy, and I think the best step is to share that with, we can share the article with details on that so you can understand for your personal situation.
Great. Okay, so here's a question that we have answered, but I'll just reaffirm it. Is this available in the UK? For now, it's only in the US. Of course, I'm sure in the future, if Google expands it, it will definitely expand worldwide as well. So here's a question from Sosa. Will this conflict with the regular Google Shopping? And I'm assuming Sosa, you're talking about how does the interplay work with Google Shopping results versus Google Shopping Actions results? So I'll let Christy answer it.
Sure. So this is a great question. How does it interact with shopping ads on search? So I think one distinction is that where products appear. With shopping actions, it's not, products don't surface only on Google search, but actually it's through Google Express and the Assistant as well. So surely in that sense, where they can appear is complementary. If we think about search specifically, they would also appear alongside each other. So depending on the query and the context, Google will try to determine what the best possible user experience will be. The answer to that may be showing a shopping actions unit, which would sit alongside a product listing ad, or it might just be showing ads. It does depend on the query. So our suggestion is by participating in both, you increase your chances of having your product surface at the maximum potential exposure.
Great, thanks, Christy. Here's another question, and this one is from Kirk. Do we get charged the click CPC and the commission, or just the commission rate? So I'll answer this one. So if it is a Google Shopping action result, you only get charged a commission rate if it sells. So there's actually very little risk. However, if you're doing Google Shopping at the same time and it's a Google Shopping PLA that is clicked on, that would be the CPC that you would be paying, and you would not be paying the commission on that product. So they are separate and distinct. You should not be charged twice. Is that correct, Christy?
Yes, exactly. It would be one or the other, but not both.
Great. Okay, so here's another one. This is actually an interesting one that I didn't even necessarily think much about. This one is from David. We're testing the idea of promoting the Express landing pages as targets in our AdWords campaigns. But that begs the question of how do we track this? So I'll take a stab and then I'll let Christy too. That's really interesting because you're basically promoting that over promoting your own website landing pages, which I guess you can do. My gut feel is that's interesting, but I don't think there's any great way to track that currently. Christy, what do you think?
I missed the first part, if you could repeat.
Oh yeah, so we're testing the idea of promoting Express landing pages as targets in our AdWords campaigns. But that begs the question of how do we track this?
Okay, so to clarify, is it an ad unit that you're running on search that instead of driving to the website drives to Google Express?
David actually, yeah, he said yes. And he's asking because he's drawn to the frictionless aspect of the Express user experience and wants to understand if people are more likely to buy with Express than directly through their website.
I think it's a great thing to think about, and ultimately, you're thinking about what the most seamless customer experience is and likeliness to convert is, which is excellent. I believe you can do both. For when you set up Merchant Center and PLAs, one of the key first steps is verifying your website. So historically, for the ads product, we've always required the retailer to have a website with a shopping cart. We are actually working with a product team to remove this obligation in the future, something that hopefully we can make available early next year. And in that sense, it wouldn't be required to drive to a website. So for your product listing ads, you can, absolutely. For shopping actions, it would convert within the unit, which does go to Express automatically.
Great. Thanks, Christy. Io actually responded about the customizations on product pages, so I'll just read it off really quickly. So I'm thinking that we do many seasonal campaigns with different coupon codes, so it'd be nice to have our current coupon available in Express. In addition to that, our products require to choose a quantity, color, and size, but some of these customization options are not currently in our feed. So my question is, how would we do this? So I guess two questions. One is the coupon codes and one is a product variants that are not currently in their feed.
On the first, we do have the functionality for you to be able to run promotions. So that would be yes. On the second, the feed that exists today for product listing ads, which you may have already set up, is not sufficient in and of itself for shopping actions. There are supplemental attributes that you would need to include in your feed, and this might satisfy some of those customizations. Because ultimately,
definitely. And just that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we deal with this quite often with Feedonomics, where sometimes we find that people are sending parent-only feeds, and other times they're sending the correct kind of child variant feeds. So in Feedonomics, we do have this ability to either go one way or the other. So let's say that in your current feed, IO, you don't have any kind of variant information. We can actually crawl your website if you can't get that to us, and we can actually break it down. So instead of it just being one parent level product, we can actually make it into a distinct variant level product per product row that we send to Google Shopping. So something like that should solve that actual problem. But just so you know, the shopping actions data validation for variations is more strict than just the typical Google Shopping one. So there is that added hurdle there, but oftentimes we find that we can help tremendously on the feed itself just by taking a parent level only feed and breaking it into multiple rows, or going the other way. And to get that level of customization for variant products, you definitely need to go from that parent feed into a variant feed. All right, great. So here's a question from Kate. Does the final sale happen on Google or on our website? Christy, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Thanks, Kate, for the question. With shopping actions, the final sale happens on Google. So the user journey does not drive off to website.
Exactly, and that's the key thing that differs from just the normal Google Shopping, which does drive traffic to your website. Perfect. Okay, so here's a question from Nelson. Is this the same as smart shopping campaigns or does it differ? Christy, do you want to take a step?
Sure. Thanks, Nelson. Smart shopping campaigns is an ad unit, an ad format, whereas shopping actions is not. So shopping actions is the ability to purchase on Google within the user journey without driving off site, and it's commission based as opposed to CPC or ad or paying by impression or click.
Definitely. So they're basically two different things. Smart shopping campaigns are completely independent from Google Shopping actions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's see. Looks like we answered that question for Nelson. Awesome. So here's another question from, oh wait, no, we answered that one. So here's one about order fulfillment. So is FeedAmp required to automate order fulfillment? How would one handle order fulfillment without FeedAmp? And what is the optimal number of orders per day that it would make sense? There are a few ways to answer that. One is we often find clients who might be selling on multiple marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and now Google Shopping Actions. So the question is, at what point does it make sense? Like, do you have a person full time who's logging into, 4 or 5 different marketplaces multiple times a day? Like, is that a full-time job? And it's usually not the most fun job, but it is kind of annoying to do. So by automating that, you minimize that lag time, because if you have someone manually doing this, it could easily be there could be hours of lag time in between. And what happens during the night, right? Is someone also doing this 24/7? So automating that part of the order fulfillment process, of course, improves all those things we mentioned earlier, which are retailer ratings and standards, making sure that you're shipping these out as quickly as possible. But that being said, if you're only selling one product a week, does it really make sense to automate? Probably not, especially if you're only on one marketplace. So I would say it boils down to the economics of what makes sense to you. But thanks so much, guys, for joining our webinar. We hope you all learned quite a bit about Google Shopping Actions, and look out for our next webinar, which will be later this month. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.